Last week, the CEO of Xbox Game Studios, Phil Spencer, went on Kinda Funny Games for an interview. Phil was transparent and brutally honest about the state of Xbox right now. Phil admitted that Xbox lost the console war. He admitted that Starfield being a huge success wouldn't even change that. In today's video, I would like to go over some of the key quotes from the interview and then give my thoughts as someone who has been an Xbox consumer since 2007. What's up, everyone? Welcome to the channel. There's a lot to discuss today in regards to Xbox. Phil Spencer's interview with Kinda Funny Games didn't make ripples across the industry, it made waves. First off, I would like to salute both Phil Spencer and the Kinda Funny crew for that interview. It's never easy to do an interview when it's focusing on a tough situation. Kinda Funny supposedly had this interview scheduled well before the problematic release of Redfall, so they probably had to pivot and change up the way they wanted to go about the interview, what kind of questions they wanted to ask. And then Phil probably had to prepare and put on a tough face, a straight face, to be able to answer those questions the way he did. And I thought both sides did a great job of staying professional, and I feel like as a consumer, this was very informative to me. I've always liked Phil Spencer. Yeah, he works for a corporation, but I do truly believe he is a gamer at heart. He tries to come off that way, and I think he does it in a pretty convincing manner. He could come out to press conferences in a suit and a tie and give PR responses. Instead, Phil wears jeans, a t-shirt, and sometimes a hoodie, all while speaking openly and honestly. If you haven't seen the 40-minute interview, I would recommend checking it out. Regardless, I will be highlighting a few quotes and giving my thoughts on it all. So let's look at the first quote. This is Phil on the console war. "We are not in the business of out-consoling Sony or out-consoling Nintendo. There isn't really a great solution or win for us, and I know that will upset a ton of people. But the truth of the matter is that when you're third place in a console marketplace and the top two players are as strong as they are, and in certain cases have a discrete focus on doing deals and other things that make being Xbox hard for us as a team. Our vision is everyone on console has a great experience and they feel like a first-class citizen." It was honestly shocking to see the CEO of the company come out and say this, but Phil kept it real. He didn't give excuses. He really couldn't give an excuse even if he tried. The numbers don't lie. According to VG charts, Sony has sold over 31 million consoles within the last year, while Xbox has sold around 20 million. Now I say around because Microsoft never gives out their exact numbers. Sony has sold over 10 million more consoles than Microsoft, and then looking at Nintendo, they have sold over 125 million Switch consoles. It is the third highest selling console of all time. Xbox lands in last place when it comes to the current gen console wars. It also ranks 23rd out of 28 spots when it comes to looking at the all-time console sales. That's not a good look at all. I think the reasoning for them losing this battle is quite simple. But let me read off another quote here because my next batch of thoughts can go with this quote and the one I'm about to read. So this was Phil on people making comments about making great games. "I see commentary out there. If you just build great games, everything will turn around. It's just not true. That if we go off and build great games, all of a sudden you're going to see console share shift in some dramatic way. We lost the worst generation to lose in the Xbox One generation, where everybody built their digital library of games. 90% of the people every year who walk into a retailer to buy a console are already a member of one of the three ecosystems. Their digital library is there." Phil hits it right on the head again. The true next-gen experience started with the last batch of consoles. We saw many changes to the industry during the Xbox One PS4 era. One of the biggest was the huge shift to people buying games digitally more often than getting the physical copy. Game Pass came out, it was a fantastic idea, and it still is, but Game Pass was nowhere close to what it is today as it was back then. The catalog of games was smaller, and there just weren't a whole lot of big-name developers. Last gen, Xbox began to pride themselves with buying and supporting more indie developers, and while Xbox was focusing on indie games for the past two generations, Sony and Nintendo were working on top-notch exclusives. Sony was coming out with games like The Last of Us series, the Uncharted series, The Return of God of War, and then you have a new franchise like Horizon with Zero Dawn and Forbidden West. You have Spider-Man 1 and pretty soon Spider-Man 2. And then looking at Nintendo, they came out with Zelda Breath of the Wild, one of the greatest games of all time. Tears of the Kingdom, the sequel, literally just released, and that game is getting fantastic reviews so far. Then you have, of course, Smash Bros. Games, more Mario games, Animal Crossing was a big hit, the Splatoon games, I mean, I could go on. And then look at Xbox. They come out with 2 controversial Halo games, you have Gears of War 4 and 5, Sea of Thieves, and the Forza games. A lot of the Xbox exclusives have had issues, and the ones that didn't just didn't stack up as well against many of the games that came out on PlayStation and the Switch. You know, Xbox has wanted to continue the glory days for Halo and Gears, but it's just not the same. The hype is different. Gears has kind of run its course, I think, but it's not like Xbox does enough to promote the series and keep it relevant these days anyways. It's a staple franchise that you don't hear much about. The Halo hype train shouldn't be dead, but it is due to the fact that 343 dropped the ball on 2 straight games. Microsoft also thought Crackdown 3 would be one of the best games to come out on the Xbox One. The game didn't even come out on time. It was delayed 3 times. It was supposed to launch in 2017 and did not arrive until 2019. The game was not that good either. The Kinect failed as a new piece of hardware, and let's look back at some more of those early games of the Xbox One. Sunset Overdrive was really good in my opinion, and it was well respected by people, but when you look at the overall sales, it wasn't great. Kinect Sports Rivals, one of those games that failed because again, the Kinect just never lived up to the hype. Recore was disappointing. Rise, Son of Rome was nothing to write home about. Fable Legends got canceled. Fable 4 has been talked about a lot, but hopefully we find out more soon, but they always hint to this game, but we never get concrete details on anything. And then lastly, there's Scalebound, which was another game that was hyped up a lot and also got canceled. So again, when talking about games, Xbox has missed the mark for many years now. Games were getting canceled and other games released but were poorly received. Honestly, look over the past 10 years of Xbox games and how many did you truly love? How many will you rank in your all-time games list? I think more memorable games came out on other consoles, and if anything, more of the Xbox games that we all love and respect today still are from the 360 era. Alright, let's look at Phil's next quote. I see a lot of pundits out there who kind of want to go back to the time where we all had cartridges and discs, and every new generation was a clean slate, and you could switch the whole console share. That is just not the world we are in today. There is no world where Starfield is an 11 out of 10 and people start selling their PS5s. That's not going to happen. Well, I'm glad Phil isn't stuck in the past or with some old mindset. He recognizes the landscape of the industry today. And I'm not sure why others in the industry would want to go back and restart, with every new console generation. I don't think that's great. I mean, honestly, the technology we have today is awesome. I love the fact that we can play games digitally. We can play games between different consoles. I mean, I have a Series S. I'm still playing a bunch of Xbox One games on the Series S. And some are getting upgraded to next-gen functionality. And while I am being pretty critical of Xbox in this video, I will point out some of the good that has been done, like Game Pass and Games for Gold. Both concepts are awesome. I like the fact that I could play games that came out in the 360 era, and maybe even some games that came out when the first Xbox released years ago. So like I said, the technology is awesome, and it's also helping keep older generations of games alive and keeping us connected as we go from console to console. And then Phil dropped another holy shit, the CEO really said that moment when he mentioned Starfield. But again, he's 100% right. Even if Starfield is a really good game, it's just one game. The damage inflicted on Xbox by its own up and down journey over the past 8 to 10 years will take a long time to repair. And here's the thing with Starfield. It doesn't have the makings of being a game that's going to change the gaming landscape. It may be space Skyrim, but it's probably not going to be influential like Skyrim was. The odds of this game being a buggy mess are high because, well, that's the track record Bethesda has. So, it is tough to have high expectations for this game. It would be nice if it was a solid game so Xbox can begin to bounce back. One game won't change the entire trajectory, but a successful AAA game would be a start in the right direction. Here's the last quote I would like to bring up. This is Phil on Xbox trying to stand out on its own. The console is the core of the Xbox brand, no doubt, so we will stay focused on making sure that console experience is awesome. Some people want to hold us up and believe we are a better green version of what the blue guys do. And I'm just going to say, there is not a win for Xbox in staying in the wake of somebody else. We have to go off and do our own thing. Phil is 100% right here. You don't want to copy everyone else in the industry because then you aren't unique. And honestly, Xbox was once unique. With some of the stellar franchises that it had, they stood the test of time, and they stood up to what was coming out on Nintendo consoles and PlayStation consoles. And also, the live service has always been pretty solid as well, and it got better over time with the introduction of Game Pass and games with gold. I believe those services were the first to come out, and then PlayStation started following suit with some of their services, and their plans are more affordable than PlayStation's options. They used to lead in the online service category for sure. And you want to talk about how can this piece of hardware, this console, stand out? Well, what stands out about it? Because the PS5 has an awesome controller. It has the haptics stuff in it, the feeling of the controller, the vibrations. You could do different things with the controller. It's almost like a Wii remote to where you have to actually physically move the remote around depending on the game to do certain things. Certain sounds and gameplay elements come out of a speaker on that. That's really cool. And then you have the Switch, which just has great versatility. You could plug it in and play on your TV in your living room, or if you're on the go, you just play it as a handheld device. What does the Xbox have? Nothing. Nothing that is anything close to versatility or a cool PlayStation 5 controller. And I don't really care if you're able to, stream games on your phone. Who cares? If you want to be a mobile gamer, fine, but I want a quality product in the controller and the console itself. That's just me. And today I do own the PlayStation 5 and the Xbox Series S. I bought the S first in 2021, and then last year I got the PS5. So I'm up to date with just about everything. I'm happy to look at my TV stand and see both consoles sitting there, but it's just not the same anymore with Xbox. For the last year, I've been extremely happy and probably have spent, honestly, 80% or more of my gaming time on the PlayStation. There has really not been anything exciting next-gen wise to come out to play on the Xbox. And I'm playing all these games on the PlayStation that I haven't played before, the games from the PS3 era and the PS4 era. Even next-gen games like Hogwarts Legacy and even Jedi Survivor right now, I bought on the PlayStation. As cool as Game Pass is, I personally get bored of it after a while. I fall into that group of gamers that really focuses on the big-name games, the AAA games. I will be checking out Starfield this year. I will be talking about it here on the channel because the future of Phil Spencer and Xbox as a whole hinges on the reception of this game. If this year doesn't go well for Xbox, I really don't know if Phil Spencer will be keeping his job. I really don't know if Xbox will be able to dig itself out of this hole anytime soon. I have been a fan of Xbox since 2007, and yes, I am one of the many who are disappointed in the current state of the company. I like Phil Spencer. I want to see him keep his job. I still like Xbox. I want to enjoy both my Series S and PS5. But right now, most of my time has been spent on the PS5, and it will continue to be like that until Microsoft figures it out with Xbox. And in my opinion, the solution is still quite simple. We need new games. We need more games. And Xbox needs to find its own version of The Last of Us and Uncharted when it comes to exclusives. That's my take on Phil's interview and the current state of Xbox. Let me know your thoughts down below in the comments. Like the video, subscribe if you haven't yet. Thanks for watching. Take care.